little bit singeing of the nose
so
hairs.
Go gentle.
Yeah. Unless your nose is just, worn out, you should probably go gently at it.
Worn out nose.
Yeah, worn.
Welcome everyone to episode 72 of The Mashup, the best bourbon conversation you're going to hear all week long. We're your hosts, Anthony and Stephen. Hello, good sir Anthony.
Hey, there he is. He's like, I'm ready to go.
Let's drink.
Let's drink them bourbons.
Let's go.
So, as you guys have noticed, we've been missing some weeks here and there. I know we've talked about this before. There's just a lot going on in the summer.
I think this is the post-COVID. Let's just everyone randomly get out of the house for random weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. My wife would be fine with me talking about this because she knows how I feel. But when she started talking to me about the summer schedule, I just looked at her and I was like, when are we home? Are we going to be home at all? Or are we just going to go places all the time? And she was like, well, and I was like, I get it, because we all spent basically more than a year and a half sitting in our home, just not doing anything. And so people are still trying to get out there. And so the reason why I'm bringing it up is because we just recently completed what I would call the second or third leg of summer vacations.
Yeah.
Down in Palmetto Bluff, South Carolina. So have you ever been down to that area? So it's like the Hilton Head, Bluffton area.
Several times.
Okay. Well, it's kind of become a little bit of a home away from home for us, because what happened is my wife's side of the family all lives in the Houston area. We started going there on their recommendation, actually, Palmetto Bluff, I'd say it's 5 years ago now. And it's a really nice, relaxed kind of vacation. You're right on the May River area there, and the Sound right out to the ocean. And you're in this community that's probably got maybe 2,000 or so members of the community. It's not very big, and it's very very upscale and very nice, and the people are nice. It just feels like a little vacation, little paradise. So yeah, we were just down there, and of course, you guys know me. When I'm vacationing, I'm always trying to look at what's going on with the local liquor store scene.
That is you.
Yeah, what do you think? Do you remember back when I told you guys, you and Michael last time about when I was in South Carolina in the same area, how it went? Do you remember that?
Was that the 35-year-old Dusty you found?
That was kind of around the time I found some other old Canadian whiskey, which was a pretty good score from Big Jim's Liquor. Remember that? Yeah. But it's not really South Carolina. I kind of feel bad for them. They don't have. If you go to a store, for example, I went to one store that was out by, the Kroger or whatever, Belfair, I can't remember what it was called, Booker's behind the counter for $170. Those kind of things where you're okay, do I have a fighting chance if I know nothing about bourbon? And the answer is no. So if you don't know what you're doing, don't go into those stores, because they'll take advantage of you. So it really is a nice place to vacation. But when I went out hunting, I had mixed results. I'll talk a little bit more about it. But right there in Palmetto Bluff, there's a place called the Boundary Bottle Shop. And I actually stopped by there, talked to their spirits manager, Gene. He actually kind of runs the entire place. Even if he's not the owner, he's the guy in charge there. Yeah. And it was really nice chatting with him. And I think that's actually probably going to feed in, not going to feed into the bottle that we're going to try tonight. So, but South Carolina, when it comes to bourbon hunting, is not been very kind to me over the years. What's your worst state for bourbon hunting, if you could pick one?
I've been to Jersey a couple of times the last couple of years, and it hasn't been too exciting. The stuff on the shelf is okay to mixing level, and just different demographic of people buying up there. And if you find anything, it's just way overpriced.
I know what you mean. So I remember, I think it was my brother one year was up somewhere in the Northeast, maybe in Baltimore, and he sent me a message and said, hey, I just found Four Roses limited edition LE, but it's $400. And I remember I was like, well, that's kind of the secondary price. So if you really want to get it because it's there in front of you and that's what you pay for it. And he was like, no, I think I'm good. He's like, but then he asked me something else like Kentucky Owl for $250 or something. So I know what you mean. Yeah, they're like overpriced stuff just to have it. And then, yeah, but I mean, all in all, I will just say this: like the vacation in Palmetto Bluff was really relaxing. It was a good time, and it's always about seeing family. And so even though I might gripe a little bit about bourbon and stuff like that, like it's always just a good time to go do things. So
yeah, it's always a fun little side thing to do when you're on vacation, just to go out and just hunt a little bit.
Yeah, but I'll elaborate because I did enjoy the hunt this year. I'll elaborate on that here in a moment.
So Anthony, we had an anonymous review and an actual written review this week.
That's right. Keep those 5-star reviews coming.
Keep coming.
We always enjoy seeing that. This one was from Josh L. from Ohio. He gave us a 5-star review, and it was entitled "Worthwhile." He said, "Great, intelligent banter. Always look forward to this one coming out," which is probably the best compliment you could ever hear. Like, if people look forward to what we're talking about and what's coming out, like, of course, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Speaking of going what you said in the top of the show, we may have another week or two that we're going to go radio silent.
Oh, yeah.
Because of upcoming trips for both of us.
Yeah, just prepare for that. So on the heels of one vacation, now it's for me, it's more like family stuff, but we got to travel to see family, and I know you got some good stuff planned.
Yeah,
so we won't spoil all that, though, because we want to talk about it in future episodes. So,
but thank you for the review.
Yes, we appreciate that so much.
And if anyone wants a shout out, just leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. The next time we record, we will give you a shout out. So, Anthony, this week is a brand spanking new bottle. We have a bottle of Paul Sutton Bourbon, single barrel.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I had never even heard of this one before, but this is the Paul Sutton Single Barrel Bourbon, which is distilled by the Paul Sutton Distillery, located in Danville, Kentucky. And I know some of you guys are probably confused right now going, well, I'm from Kentucky, or I know about Kentucky, and I've never heard of Paul Sutton in Danville. I actually know that this whiskey was distilled at Wilderness Trail. So whatever presence they have, that's where it was distilled at. So the bottle date is 2022. The ABV on this is 58.34. Proof is 116.68. This is a 6-year age statement right there on the bottle. The mash bill, of course, is corn, rye, malted barley, but it's not disclosed in terms of percentages. I will mention that all the grains do come from a family farm in Alabama, which is pretty unique and cool. The MSRP, so if you found Paul Sutton Bourbon on the shelf in the 5 states that it's distributed in, it would probably be the small batch version, and that has an MSRP of around $60. But this one was a single barrel pick, and that's the one that I'm going to mention that we got there from the Boundary Bottle Shop in South Carolina, and it was $100. The MSRP was $100.
The bottle has some very nice aspects about it.
Yeah, and it's very heavy as well. I saw you trying to lift that thing.
And the thing must weigh 3 or 4 pounds. And I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah, it's a heavy bottle.
It may even weigh more.
I know. I was actually thinking to myself, like during the glass shortage, there stuff that we talked about during the pandemic, like maybe Paul Sutton Bourbon didn't come out because they couldn't figure out how to get this glassware, because it's pretty.
I mean, there must be 3 bottles worth of glass in this thing.
I know. Yeah. It's a really nice looking bottle.
Yeah, they took a note from Smoke Wagon and printed a seal into the actual glass.
Oh yeah,
and then it has this leather tag around the neck that looks pretty sharp with a nice button on it.
Is that a metal cap?
And that's the last thing I would say. It's a solid metal cap.
Yeah, the cork is seated on a nice metal
distressed looking cap.
So it's like a Paul Sutton, like a monogrammed cap on there.
Yeah, it's all the same monograms up on top and in the embedded pin.
Yeah,
in the front. One thing I have to say about this bottle is the nice leather neck tag that goes around it.
Mm-hmm.
So it has private barrel, but if you're just looking at the back of it, all you see is barrel.
Yeah,
and it has a very orphan barrel look to it.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, you might quickly mistake this as an orphan barrel just off the back of it.
It's not a bad thing to mistake it for,
no,
but
it's not.
Yeah, it really. I'll tell you what. Like we've talked about craft bourbon, and I will put this in a craft category, especially since neither of us had heard about it until I had gone down to South Carolina. It's just really nice. Like even on the sides of the glass, it says Family Reserve, and then on the back, they have this really they have the description of where it comes from and whatnot, but they have these like, what is it called? Like 7 cuts or staves, or how would you put that? It's like 7 raised parts of the glass that represent their 7th generation of distilling. And then they have this nice, almost leathery kind of sticker that says selected exclusively crafted for the Palmetto Bluff members, which I'm not a member. My brother-in-law is, but
that decal is super nice. I mean, I'm assuming that's just because it's a pick, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a very high-end pick sticker.
Yeah, it's all around just a really nice presentation. Like one of the best that I've seen in recent times, especially for a pick. It definitely beats the yellow Buffalo Trace single barrel pick sticker that you see on there, or like, hey, we're just going to hang something off the neck of this bottle that says it's a single barrel pick. But it's just
there's
really
two
nice.
things on here. They got the private barrel leather neck tag with metal button.
Yes,
saying it's a private pick, and then they have that, I mean, very high end, like cowhide decal on it. That's 2-tone color.
Yeah,
and that is very thick sticker to put on there.
He's trying to rip it off the bottle right now. He's going to keep it. He's going to put it on his shirt.
So yeah, I agree. This has aspects of a couple different bottles that are really nice, and the parts that we like about some other bottles.
Yeah,
and they put it on the one. It's very attractive.
Paul Sutton Bourbon, as I mentioned in the intro, I was kind of like, where in the heck did this come from? I'm like, why am I standing in a small store in a very small part of South Carolina, an exclusive part of South Carolina, where I'm looking at a bourbon that's supposed to be from Danville, Kentucky, that I've never heard of in my entire life. Had you ever heard of this?
No.
Yeah.
The only Sutton I know is the Italian restaurant in town.
There you go, right? Yeah. Sutton's. Maybe they're related,
maybe.
You think? This is no disrespect to their shop, but my expectations when I go anywhere are very low, because I know I'm not going to walk in there and find like anything that, your average bourbon person is like after, right? I'm not going to go in there and find, anything remarkable. But what I will say about their shop is they have a very respectable selection, given like how big they are and how many people are buying bourbon there, which isn't like the same as, any store here in Lexington. Mm-hmm. And so they keep a lot of nice items on the shelf. They had the whole Old Forester line, the 1900s, and they had, like some Old Scout and some Hill Rock, and they had like a lot of good bourbon and a lot of different variety of whiskey, good Scotch and things like that. So I definitely know that Gene knows what he's doing over there, just based on what he has on the shelf. But I was so confused when I saw this pick, but I was also intrigued at the same time. And so we got to talking about it. Gene said that he helped select it and it was for the members and everything else. And so I was instantly like, okay, yeah, I got to buy this and we got to review it on the podcast.
Should we go for our first notes?
For sure. So I will say this, we fresh cracked this, but we let it sit for about an hour. Open, just sitting here, and then we poured it and we let it sit a little bit longer. And when I first nosed this, I was getting a lot of citrus, but now when I'm nosing it, I'm getting a lot of,
I think first you need to say as a word of caution before you go into sniff this.
Yeah.
Is coming slowly from the sides.
Yeah, it's every bit of that 118 proof.
Yeah.
And when we say every bit, we're talking about some little bit singeing of the nose hairs.
So go gentle.
Yeah. Unless your nose is just worn out, you should probably go gently at it.
Worn out nose.
That's worn. Hey, some people are like, my palate's beat, or my palate, I can't figure things out tonight. Maybe my nose is worn out. But
they have the vanilla caramel when you can get it on the side. It's also, I got a hint of youth in it. Which is, I guess 6 years is kind of on that cusp of when, because it's single barrel, so all this is 6 years. It's not like it's a small batch, but I did smell like a little bit of youth in there. Yeah,
it's like, so what are you getting? Are you getting oak or are you getting new wood? And I agree with you. I'm getting the new wood. Yeah, more fresh cut wood than like a deep oak, like a charred oak. You mentioned this to me, but I'm getting a little bit of burnt. You said marshmallow. Is that what you said?
Or toasted. I don't know if it's burnt or toasted. Yeah,
toasted. There's definitely toasted sugars or toasted.
Yeah, right.
Toasted. So a little bit of citrus, a little bit of new wood, a little bit of
But the new wood
sugar.
is very.
Yeah, it's faint.
It's very faint.
Yeah, it's not like a overwhelming. New wood.
Yeah, it's not grass
for the
clippings or
9,000th time.
Yeah.
It's either the green note or the campfire note, and I'm not getting either of those. So that's a good thing. I do want to tell you, while we're nosing this, a little bit about Paul Sutton bourbon, because as I said before, it seemed like a mystery to me, but it's limited distribution only in Kentucky, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, and Texas.
So we get it here?
Yeah, actually, when I looked it up on their website, assuming that's current, it said the place that carried it was Party Source in northern Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
So if you're, I guess, by Party Source and you're interested or intrigued by what you hear today, then you would go out and get it. But this is a 100-year-old family recipe, and this is really interesting, right? So R.M. Sutton, or Grandpa Sutton, he passed away in 1998, and all that was left was the original bourbon-filled mason jars and the same deep passion for distilling the perfect pour. So his granddaughter, who's actually an accomplished doctor, Dr. Mira Barganier, she took a break from her medical career to raise her children and continue on the family tradition. So along with her husband, Paul Amrich, they reverse engineered things. When I say they reverse engineered things, I don't quite understand the process here. So Steven's looking at me like, what's the matter with you? To reproduce the yeast and the mash bill that her relatives would have used to produce this bourbon. They only produce 20 barrels of bourbon a day.
Jeez.
That's it. You know what the big guys produce?
A lot more than that.
Yeah, I think the record, or when I say the record, when you look on the Google, 700 barrels a day for the big guys, and some have produced up to 1,000. So just to give you an idea, that's how much they produce. But it's really a cool story that these folks like have decided to carry on a family tradition and do it in such a deliberate way. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, you got a female accomplished doctor leading this distillery and this charge. So far, before we taste here, I'm liking everything I'm hearing.
It's a good story.
Yeah, it really
good
is.
Story. It's also like if you can just pick up on like a side hobby like that, and all of a sudden, create something like a whole beverage.
I feel like it's become way more than a side hobby for them.
Oh yeah, at this point,
like the main thing. Yeah, right. But it's I don't know, like the marriage of the story with being down there in Palmetto Bluff and not really ever seeing any kind of good single barrel selections from them has got me completely intrigued here. So I'm excited. I hope I'm not let down.
All right, should we go for a first taste?
Yep, that is a little bit hot, but anytime you got a 6-year-old, almost 120 proof whiskey,
it's going to be warm.
It's going to be a little bit warm.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way.
No, it wasn't actually.
Yeah, it's the flavors I'm getting are a lot of classic bourbon flavors, but I think like the ones that are standing out to me is almost like a vanilla extract flavor, a little bit of brown sugar, and there's one more I'm not quite getting.
Just overall, I think the palate profile is quite nice. It has the heat from it. It is, a little young.
Yeah.
But it kind of bursts into this warm, solid bourbon taste.
Yeah.
Nothing extraordinary or anything. Just it's a hearty drink.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it, because it's not like when I sipped it, I was like, oh man, that's like GTS caliber.
Yeah,
or right. Something like massively. Mm-hmm. But I also wasn't like, I said I liked the story. I said I liked interacting with Gene, who helped to select it and all this stuff. But you get all that stuff and you get excited about something and you don't want to be let down. Do you know how many times I've tasted a craft bourbon and let down? Oh my God. I literally wanted to break a bottle one time. And I won't mention who actually was a distiller of this or the selection, but like, I tasted a $70 bottle one time and I wanted to smash it on the pavement because it was so bad. Like I literally had that kind of reaction. And so my expectation going into this is pretty low. And I'm happy. I'm happy right now that it's not of the caliber where I want to smash it off the pavement.
Like what other 6-year-old cask strengths do you know of?
That's a very tough question because, you might get a 6-year-old cast strength bourbon from Wilderness Trail and from New Riff and some others, but they're barrel entry proof. I don't know what the barrel entry proof is on this, but I know that New Riff goes very low on their barrel entry proof. Mm. And so you're not up around 120 for anything there. You're usually between 108 and 112.
Yeah.
Wilderness Trail does have some higher proof, which I've had, which maybe it's not quite 6 years. It's been a little bit younger than that. It's been like 5.5. But like I'm kind of drawing a blank here.
So what I'm trying to get at is that that's a bold move.
Absolutely.
To come out at 6 years at such a high proof.
Well, 100%. That means you really trust in your whiskey.
Right. And maybe that goes with, my statement about just the explosion. There's warmth there. Just this big drink when you consume it. It's just like you said, it's not on the GTS level or anything like that. It's just like they decided to enter it in at such a high proof. Maybe that's where the strength lied instead of the flavor notes.
I will say this. Another 24 to 36 months of aging of this, and it would be, I think it would be amazing. I mean, I think it's pretty good, but I think that this is one of those where put in the back shelf. If you check in with them 2 to 3 years from now, I got a feeling their whiskey's going to be just out of this world. That's just the way I feel tasting it right now.
I mean, yeah, you put an 8 or 12 year age statement on this thing.
Yeah,
or 10 year,
because it's got a lot of. I'm re-nosing here and
I mean, I think with the age is gonna simmer.
Yeah,
simmer down that ethanol. Mm. I'd be really intrigued on like what remains.
Absolutely,
Anthony. Would you pass, try, or buy on the Paul Sutton bourbon?
I am giving this assessment based on my knowledge and, tasting of craft bourbon. And I would say that I'm a solid try on this one. It's hard for me to go buy just because the MSRP on this was $100. I don't really know if that's standard, if that was inflated a little bit. I just think that you're flirting with some heavyweights. I know that other podcast critics and things say you can never judge a whiskey based on what its cost is, but we're not getting a whole lot of whiskey from anybody. Yeah. We're paying for all of it. So I got to judge it.
My mailbox is not, it's not been enlarged any.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to act like I, got extra to money to throw at things. So I'm solid to try. And I'm really actually was more impressed with this than I thought I would be. No offense to Paul Sutton. No offense to Gene, my good buddy that I talked to for 45 minutes because I know he helped select it. But the reason why I'm a solid try is because I think this is something people that it was selected for, the members of Palmetto Bluff, could be proud of because it's a very tasty sip. But I also think that price, proof, value is definitely try it and see if it hits your palate even more because I think it's, in the middle to it's on the cusp of things that I would reach for all the time. It's just not quite there.
Did you get to try anything else while you're there? Like did they have a small batch or any sort of other bourbon whiskey while you're there?
No. All the stuff they had in the store was mostly, I don't think they had any of their store picks. I remember years ago I had something that they did with 13th Colony Distillery in Georgia, which was pretty good. It was French oak though, and it was like very, very French oak, like overly like lick the barrel French oak. I liked it because I don't mind that, but I could see that not being anything. But I don't think they picked that. I think that was something like their parent company picked, and then they were like just selling in the store. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this is something that seems like they were hands on and selecting.
I think I'm going to be a try on this.
Okay.
I'm close to a buy.
Yeah.
But the price is a little high for the 6-year-old aspect of it. Because I think if it had the extra 2 years at least, I think it'd changed so much. But I think I agree with you. They did a pretty good job picking the barrel.
Oh, yeah.
And coming out 6 years at 116, strong.
Oh, yeah.
That's strong statement.
Absolutely.
And the fact, they trusted the barrel enough to do that.
Yeah.
It's a good barrel pick then. So definitely try on this one.
I'm gonna take it afterward and put some water, a couple drops of water, and see if it opens up a little bit more. This is definitely one I'd like to try with a little bit of water to see.
That's true.
But yeah, man, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that's a really good assessment. But I'm actually looking for big things from that little shop there, because I feel like that community continues to grow, and as the interest in bourbon continues to tick up. Like, one of the coolest things at the end was I was talking to Gene, and I said, like, what's the bourbon community like? And he said there's a little group of people that get together and go out by the fire and do a bottle share and cigars and stuff. So I was like, man, thinking, I'm like, if we ever get established down here, whenever, my brother-in-law is supposed to be, taking up residence there half the time in the year, not to go too far into that. But if we go down there for an extended amount of time, I'd love to be part of that community to see what they drink, what they interact, what they talk about. And I think it'd be a really, really, really cool experience. And so
you can have yourself a Paul Sutton vertical.
There you go,
there
right?
so much.
I mean, I'm actually excited to be looking for this at some point in time. Like, I had never seen it before I was down there, but now I'm going to keep my eye open for it. So,
no, thank you for bringing this.
No doubt.
And with that, thanks for listening to this week's edition. Please like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Mashup KY. Also, please let us know your thoughts on this bottle in the comment section. Until next time, keep it neat.